From my perspective, the feedback loop, has the way that I've experienced it, right? And as I've kind of, developed my appreciation for feedback loops, it was all in the context of really as an analyst, helping businesses make decisions that would help them grow consistently and, outperform competition, right? If you think of it, that was the context. And as an analytic, expert, one of the things we've always done is to say, what's the signal? How do you learn what's driving that signal? And how do you do more of it if that's a good signal? And how do you do less of it if that's a bad signal, right? That's the overall frame. And my whole perception around feedback loops, and I've learned this over the past 27 years of implementing it, is they are pretty much the critical piece. They're the linchpin of any framework that seeks to deliver excellence, whatever that framework is, right?
Yeah, I'm going to keep you on a roll, but when we were posting about today's session, you had the most meaningful comment that you posted, and I'm going to just get you started. You wrote, feedback loops are the most critical aspect of any framework for delivering excellence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. And I say that because, like I said, I experienced it very much as part of my professional work, right? Yeah. Like I said, I was brought in by organizations to build capabilities and develop teams to primarily do things that said, my business is spending a lot of resources in generating demand, right? Help me understand how to make that spend more effective. It's as simple as that. That was the business ask. And the idea was to get in there and say, okay, what are the signals we have? Okay, you're going to spend some money on advertising. You're going to spend some money on promotions. Let's look at those signals and let's see what's working, right? Like, when I do something, how much more is it pushing my business versus when I do something, it's not pushing as much. Simple. Very quickly, we learned that if we were sticking to just is what I'm doing working, we're only doing half of the effort, right? Just half at best. But if we actually took a little bit more of a provocative approach to say, okay, it's not just about is what I'm doing working, right? But what if I learned from it and adjusted the pieces that weren't working and the pieces that were working? And we had to get to a little bit more of a underlying bedrock concept, which was all about intentionality. All right. And the intentionality means that what was your intent? Or what was your expectation when you went and spent that money on that advertising campaign? Did you expect to grow new consumers? Did you expect to sell more to who are already buying it? Or was it a combination of both? If you didn't have that intentionality clear, it doesn't matter how much you measure what you did. You could never get to actually doing what needs to be done to maximize what you're doing. Does that make sense?
It does make a lot of sense.
This realization took me a while, right? It was do and learn, and then I was probably the slow learner in the class, but eventually we figured it out. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
And I would say, to kind of connect it to the fence post that we planted from Clear, was that when you say there certainly is a type of feedback that's like, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
That would, to me, correlate more to what Clear is writing about in terms of balancing feedback.
Exactly.
Am I doing the right thing? Am I on track?
Am I on track? Yeah.
But then when you get into reinforcing feedback, like how fast can I go on the track, or can I go faster? You get to the feedback that you were just talking about, which is, well, where
was your original intent?
What was your original purpose in actually trying to get there?
Yeah. And if you don't have a feedback loop thinking mindset, you don't get anywhere, first of all. But even if you had a well-developed feedback loop thinking, you'd only get to half of it, right? There's the other piece, which is like when you develop the whole thing, in the way it's supposed to be. So that was my story. So what we did was, very quickly, we said, hang on, the conversation we should be having with our business leaders is not about, is what you're doing working? It should really be, what was your intent first? Set that benchmark, then go forecast what you think is going to happen. And if you meet the forecast, great, do more of it. If you don't meet the forecast, then learn from it. What was the gap? Why did it happen? Did we not do something we said we were going to do?
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? Or are we not even aware of the things that we need to do that move the needle, right? So anyway, so that's my story. And so that was how I grew up, if you may, learning feedback loops and the effectiveness of them. The way that it relates to, what we're talking about today is, it is so true. When you said, you said that the author of the article didn't say it, but your words were for business. Absolutely 100% agreed, right? So when you think about feedback loops, where at least when I think about feedback loops in the context of leadership development, I think they're even more critical,